All right, today we're jumping into what has to be one of the most dramatic opening chapters ever written, the first chapter of the book of Exodus. I mean, it is such a powerful story. It's all about how a group of people, a thriving minority, can suddenly be seen as this massive threat, and man, does it set the stage for an absolutely epic confrontation.
You know, this chapter really gets at a question that feels, well, timeless, doesn't it? It's tracking this huge transformation, right? The children of Israel go from being welcomed guests, relatives of a top official, to this feared, enslaved population. So the big question is, how did that happen?
Well, to really get it, you have to know that the seeds of this whole thing were planted way, way earlier. The story doesn't kick off with a big battle or anything like that. Nope, it starts with a family. We're talking about the descendants of a guy named Jacob, who you might also know as Israel. They come to Egypt basically looking for safety from a famine, and they're totally welcomed. Why? Because one of their own, Joseph, is a huge deal in the Egyptian court.
And when they first showed up, we're not talking about a massive group. Their number was tiny. The text is super specific about this. There were only 70 of them. 70 people in total made that first trip. Think about that for a second. Just 70. This wasn't an army, not some political group. It was just a few families looking for a new home.
But over the years, something pretty incredible happens. That little group of 70, they flourish. I mean, they really flourish. The text puts it this way: they were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied, and the land was filled with them. And right there, that's the crucial turning point. Their own success, that becomes the root of their biggest problem.
Okay, so now we get to a really key moment. There's a change in power. A new pharaoh takes the throne, one who, as the text puts it, knew not Joseph. And this is huge. Think about it. That whole history, that debt of gratitude Egypt had for Joseph saving them from famine, it's just gone, forgotten. This new king, all he sees is this large foreign group of people doing really well inside his country.
And we don't even have to guess what he's thinking, because we hear it in his own words. He actually says this to his people, and it just reveals this deep, deep paranoia. He's not just a little worried, he is terrified. He looks at their numbers and sees a direct threat to his power. He's imagining them siding with his enemies if a war breaks out. I mean, it's a classic case of a leader creating a threat to rally support, right? It's a pattern we've seen over and over again in history.
So what does he do? Well, driven by all this fear, Pharaoh comes up with a plan. And it's a cold, calculated strategy of oppression. It's designed to do just one thing: stop the Israelites from growing. His thinking is, if I can break their bodies and their spirits, I can control their numbers.
And this wasn't just random acts of cruelty. Oh no, it was a system. First, he sets up this whole hierarchy of oppression, right? He puts taskmasters over them. Then he just crushes them with labor, forcing them to build entire cities for him. The whole goal was just to make their lives so miserable, so bitter, that their entire community would just fade away.
And the text itself gives us these really vivid, awful details. It says they were forced into labor with rigor, working in mortar and brick and every kind of job out in the fields. Look, this wasn't just a tough job. This was a whole system of slavery designed to absolutely grind them into dust.
But here's the incredible irony of the whole story. The plan totally backfires. I mean, completely. The very things he did to try and crush the Israelites, it had the exact opposite effect. It seems like the more they were oppressed, the more resilient they got, and the more their population just boomed. Pharaoh's big plan, a total and complete failure.
So, with his first plan completely in ruins, what does Pharaoh do? He escalates. He shifts from this public oppression to a secret and honestly a much, much darker plot. And this is where we meet the first real heroes of this entire story. Two women who were given an absolutely unthinkable command.
Their names were Shiphrah and Puah, and these women were the Hebrew midwives. Just think about that. Their entire job, their whole life's purpose, was to bring new life into the world. So Pharaoh calls them in, and he gives them this secret order that just flips their entire purpose completely upside down.
And the command, straight from the text, is just horrifying in how cold and calculated it is. He tells them that at the very moment of birth, they're supposed to become executioners. If the baby is a boy, a potential future soldier in Pharaoh's paranoid mind, they are to kill him. We've just jumped from forced labor to state-sponsored, targeted killing of infants.
So, what do, right? You've got the most powerful man on earth telling you to do this horrible thing. Do you obey him, or do you follow a higher law? Well, the text gives us this simple but incredibly profound answer. It says they didn't fear Pharaoh, the midwives feared God. Their loyalty wasn't to the king of Egypt, it was to a moral authority that was way, way bigger than him.
And that fear of God translated directly into action. I mean, this was an incredible act of civil disobedience. They just didn't do what the king said. They saved the baby boys. And when Pharaoh called them on it, they even came up with this really clever excuse. And the result of all this? The text says God rewarded them, and the Israelite population just kept on growing. So yeah, Pharaoh's second plan failed too.
So he's been stopped twice. At this point, Pharaoh is getting desperate. His secret plans, which relied on just a couple of people doing his dirty work, were completely foiled by their courage. So what does he do? He makes his genocidal plan public. All subtlety is gone. He basically turns his entire nation into agents of his cruelty.
And this is the chilling climax of the chapter. He issues a public decree to all his people. This isn't a secret order for 2 midwives anymore. This is a national command. Every single Hebrew boy that is born is to be thrown into the Nile River to drown. The state itself has now officially sanctioned genocide.
And that is where the chapter leaves us, just hanging in this moment of total darkness. You have the full power of the government aimed at wiping out an entire people, starting with their children. And it just leaves you with this powerful question, doesn't it? When the system itself is the source of evil, where do you even begin to look for hope? It's a truly desperate setup for the hero who is about to be pulled from the very same river that was meant to be his grave.